Imini yesabatha abehle kwangcwele. Sizokhula ngehlabelelo 93 inkosi kusekuphama kwebala. Siyakubonga nguye onguye. Siyakubonga. Siyakubonga nguye onguye. Asibonge. Amen. Isihloko salenkonzo sithi Sinenselelo Yokuqonda Ngojehova.
Today's topic says that we have a duty to understand about the faith system of Yahweh.
Ngaphambi kokuba ngidlule kulokho ngiyafisa kuba ngikhulume kafisha ngalesi sihlabelelo.
Prior to me delving into that more deeply, I wish to firstly speak about this hymn.
Ngokuqala uShembe uthi siyakubonga nguye onguye.
Firstly, the prophet says, we give thanks to you, Yahweh.
Leli gama elithi nguye onguye lichaza ukuthi lichaza uJehova ngesiHebrew kuthiwa uYahweh.
The words nguye onguye are also translated into Hebrew as Yahweh.
uShembe wayazi ukuthi uJehova uYahweh waqala ngalokho.
The prophet had an understanding that God is also known as Yahweh.
Emva kwalokho wayese uYahweh emthopha ngamagama amaningi ethi nguguqabadele.
After that, he went on to praise Yahweh by referring to him in many other names.
Umveli nqangi.
The one who appeared first. Emmanuel.
Wayesegcina ngoNkulunkulu lo vele esimaziyo.
And he summed up by referring to him as God, which is familiar to us.
kodwa uqale ngoYahweh
but he started off by referring to him as Yahweh.
ngoba uNkulunkulu wethu uYahweh lo esimbiza ukuthi uJehova.
For our God is known as Yahweh, the one whom we refer to as Jehovah.
Njengoba sibaningi kangaka lapha ngizibuze ukuthi yini eniyibonile.
As we are gathered here in great numbers, I always ask myself what it is that you have seen.
Abantu abaningi abalazi leli bandla ukuthi liveliphi livela kanjani.
Many people do not know the origins of this church.
Mhlawumbe into ebathathile indlela eshumayela ngayo kodwa abakwazi ukugxila noma ukujula kwaleli bandla.
Perhaps what appealed to them is the manner in which we preach, but they cannot be fully devoted to this church.
Esikhathini esiphambili unkosazana wachaza ngokujula ngaleli bandla.
The maiden, in a time that precedes the time we are in now, explained the depth about this church, the intricacy about it.
Uma sikhuluma ngonkosazana ke sikhuluma ngengilosi ehlala nayo.
And when we speak about a maiden, we are referring to an angel that we live with.
Uthike lo muntu wasezulwini esikhathini esiphambili kwafika izithunywa zasezulwini ziza kumprofeti.
The divine being said that divine beings came to the prophet.
Base bayamtshela ukuthi leli bandla lizohamba lihambe liwe.
And they told the prophet that there is coming a time that this church will come into ruins.
Kodwa ukuwa kwalo lowiswa inzalo yakho.
But the fall of this church will come about from your progeny.
Uthike unkosazana base bambuza ukuthi uzoyivimba kanjani lento.
The maiden says that they went on to question him as to how will he go about to stop this from happening.
Uthike umprofeti wathi ngiyacela kuJehova ukuba abusise lentandane yami ukuze ukuthi kubantwana eyobazala kobe nomntwana oyothi engasiyena owakwaShembe ngesibongo kodwa ebe nomoya kaShembe.
She went on to say that the prophet then said, I ask of God that he blesses this orphan of mine so that when he gives a birth to children or a child, though he might not be, he might not belong to the Shembe clan in flesh, but he be with the spirit of Shembe.
Itike ingilosi wabe esethi umprofeti ngolwa ngalomntwana ukuba leli bandla lingapheli.
The prophet then went on to say that I will use this child to defend this congregation or this faith system.
Uthike babembuza ngoba leli bandla kubungela sezulwini kungafanele ukuthi liphele.
She said that they were questioning him because this congregation is divine, it is heavenly, and there should never come a time where it stops to exist.
Leli bandla laqedwa isizwe samaRoma eminyakeni yo70 AD.
This faith system was destroyed, or it was ruined by the Roman nation in the year 70 AD.
Kuthathe iminyaka e1800 abantu bengazilutho ngebandla kaJehova.
And it has took 1,800 years that the people knew nothing about the faith system of Yahweh.
Kwaze kwafika umprofeti izaShembe ukuthola kube kuye okungiyena olivusile leli bandla.
Up until such a time that the prophet Isaiah Shembe, peace be upon him, came and he revived this faith system.
Ukuthi leli bandla likaJehova lavuswa umprofeti ucacile ngoba ziningi izinto owazenza ezivusa leli bandla likaJehova owayelehlisile uNkulunkulu entabeni yaseSinayi.
it is clearly evident that this congregation of faith system was revived by the prophet from the things that he did when he was still alive.
Oqala abantwana bakwaIsrayeli bamhlubuka uNkulunkulu.
Firstly, the children of Israel were pious towards God, practiced apostasy.
Ekumhlubukeni kwakhe wayesesuka eduze kwabo.
And when they practiced apostasy, God then left them.
Ekusukeni eduze kwabo banqotshwa izizwe eziningi baze banqotshwa isizwe samaRoma namhla kuthiwa ama-Italians.
After forsaking them, they went on to be conquered by many nations. Amongst them is the Roman people, whom are today known as the Italians.
Ama-Romans ke ahlakanipha ngoba athi ma enqoba ama-Israelites ayise echitha inkolo yabo.
The Romans were witty in that when they conquered the Israelites, they went on to do away with the faith system of the Israelites.
Base bakha eyabo inkolo abayibiza ngokuthi ubuKristu.
And they created their own religion, which is known as Christianity.
Base beshaya imithetho okuthiwa ama-creeds eyayiqeda nya indaba yenkolo kaJehova. Beqeda noJehova uqobo lwakhe.
They then created creeds which were solely intended to do away with the faith system of Yahweh and do away with Yahweh.
Yaphela impela inkolo kaJehova bonke abantu abazalwe emva kwaleso sikhathi abaze baqonda ukuthi yake bakhona inkolo kaJehova.
And that is when the faith system of Yahweh ceased to exist, and people who were born after that had no understanding regarding the faith system of Yahweh.
Esezulwini wathula uNkulunkulu wayibuka lento yamhlupha kakhulu.
And in heaven God kept quiet, and he looked at this and he was worried.
Ekugcineni wathuma umprofeti uIsaiah ukuba azovusa lenkolo yakhe kulaba bantu bakhe asebelapha eSouthern Africa.
Finally he sent the prophet Isaiah, peace be upon him, so that he may revive his faith system amongst his people who were in the south of Africa.
Kodwa ekuhambeni komprofeti Isaiah kwahamba nalaba bantu abathi bakholwa kule nkolo bagcina sebeyichitha ngokwayo sebehlubuka kuyo behlubuka besayibiza ngayo.
However, when the prophet departed, the people who claimed themselves to be members of this faith system went on to practice apostasy within the faith system.
Kodwa ke njengoba uNkulunkulu wayengafuni ukuthi lenkolo iphele, wayesethumela izithunywa zakhe evela ezulwini komprofeti ukuthi zizomxwayisa ukuthi uyabona yini ukuthi lenkolo izohamba iphele.
However, just as Yahweh did not want his faith system to cease to exist at a time prior to the prophet, he then sent his divine servants or beings to warn the prophet as to is he aware of the fact that this congregation will also be faced by a time that it was faced with before.
Nanokuthi lokho kuphela kwalenkolo kuyoqedwa inzalo yakhe umprofeti.
And that it is his progeny that will abolish this faith system once more.
Ngokuhlakanipha kamprofeti wayese ekhomba umama owayintandane wathi ngicela uNkulunkulu angibusisele lentandane yami ukuze uma igana ekuganeni kwayo kube nomntwana oyothi engasiyena akwaShembe ngesibongo kodwa ebe nomoya kaShembe.
And in his divine wisdom the prophet then pointed to my mother, and he asked of God that I ask that when this orphan of mine gets married, she then goes on to give birth to a child whom though might not be of the Shembe clan in the flesh, but he be with the spirit of Shembe.
Leli bandla ke lakheke kanjalo lakheke ukuba livuse inkolo kaJehova eyayisichithwa ngamaNazaretha.
This congregation is built upon such foundations. It was found so that it revives and protects the faith system of Yahweh, which was done away by the Nazarites.
Ngicabanga ukuthi kwakunyaka ka2008 noma 2007 angisakhumbuli ngisebuhleni mhla ngithola ucingo la lensizwa zakwaNxumalo ezazithi zizolanda umkhokheli ngoba zithi ayifuni ukuthi egane mina.
I think that it was the year 2007, if not 2008. I was at Ebuhleni and I received a phone call from men from the Numalo family, and they said that they were coming to fetch the chief counselor, for they did not want her to marry me.
Ngangisemgidini naye umkhokheli basitshela ukuthi sebezofika ePietermaritzburg akalungise umkhokheli ngoba bazomlanda.
I was in the holy dance with the counselor, and they had already instructed her that she must prepare herself, for they were coming to fetch her.
Kwase kuvela ingilosi khona ebuhleni yathi bathini laba, bathi angeke umcebo imbiza kanjalo umcebo angeke umcebo egane wena bayazi ukuthi lokhu kuganana kwenu kusukaphi.
Right there, the angel appeared, and she said, "What are these people saying? Are they saying that Mcebo," and the angel refers to her as Mcebo, "are they saying that she cannot marry you? Do they know this, where this marriage comes from? Do they know where it was found?"
Ithiye ingilosi nahlanganiswa amadoda athize ezweni elithize ningakababikho ngisho eswini zomama benu.
The angel then said that your matrimony took place at a time before, and it was by certain men at a certain time, and you did not even exist in the wombs of your parents.
Ithike ingilosi bangobani bona abangakwazi ukuthi bestophishe lento eyenziwa yilamadoda.
And she said, who are they to say that they will stop what these men conjoined?
Laba abantu bakwaNxumalo bathi mabefika ePietermaritzburg bethi bathela upetrol kwaqhamuka intombazana lo driver yavele yamthela ngamanzi wabamanzi wavaleka amehlo.
And when they were at Pietermaritzburg at a petrol station, they just appeared a maiden or a girl that poured water onto the driver, and this driver became wet and blind at that very same instance.
Bajika khona lapho babuyela eGauteng babona ukuthi lolu hambo lapho aliqondile ngoba bayazi lentombazana ivelaphi.
They turned back to go to Johannesburg, for they did not understand where this girl or maiden came from.
Nokuthi anjani lamanzi ebathele ngawo babazi impumputha.
And what kind of water is it that you poured onto them such that they would become blind?
Sabalindela usuku lonke nobusuku bonke bengafiki.
We awaited for them the whole day and were vigilant even during the night, and they did not arrive.
Ekseni sashayelwa intombazana ehlala nabo ihleka ithi abafowabo babuye endleleni ngesizathu lesi sengisitshela sona.
And in the morning we were called by a woman that lived with them, and she was laughing, and she said that they had to turn back based on the reason that I have just explained to you.
Kodwa into engiyiqondile ilokhu kokuthi lokhu kuhlangana kwalaba bantu kwenziwa abantu ngamadoda athile ezweni elithile nina ningakababikho ngisho eswini zomama bini.
But what I'm saying, or what I intend to say, are the words that the angel said, that the matrimony of these two people took place at a certain time by certain men prior to your existence, even in your parents' wombs.
Angiqondi ukuthi umuntu uqala nini ukuba ebekhona ngoba ngendlela ingilosi yachaza ngayo sake sabakhona kwelinye izwe kwahlelwa ngathi singakababiko singakazalwa.
I have no understanding as to when a person comes into being, for the angel narrated to us that we once existed in a certain place prior to even our existence here on earth.
Lokhu kwakusobala ukuthi kwakufakazela lokhu yayikade kushila ingilosi ukuthi ubaba mkhulu wathi ngicela uNkulunkulu yathi ngicela uJehova abusise lo mntwana ukuze kuthi uma egana kube khona umntwana oyothenga siyena owakwaShembe kodwa ebe nomoya kaShembe.
This was testament to what the prophet said when he said that I ask of God to bless this child so that when she gets married, she gives birth to a child whom will be with the spirit of Shembe, despite him not belonging under the Shembe clan in the flesh.
Umprofeti kagcinanga lapho kodwa wakhipha inkomo ezu-18 ehamba ngamasondo wayenikeza abantu bakwaDube ethenga omama.
That was not the end of what the prophet did, but he then gave the Dube family 18 live cows so that he would have ownership of my mother.
Kuthiwa ngenkathi umprofeti enza lokho umfundisi umlangeni wamsola uShembe wathi ukwenzelana ukukhipha inkomo eningangaka uthenge intombazana engazukana kwaShembe.
It is said that when the prophet did that, the priest Umlangeni spoke against what the prophet was saying and questioned him as to why would he purchase this young child with 18 live cows whilst she is not coming to the Shembe family to marry.
Impendulo yomprofeti yathi ngiyazi ukuthi ngenzani.
And the prophet answered by saying, I know what it is that I'm doing.
Umprofeti wayesazi konke ngoba kwakufikile izithunywa zasezulwini zakhuluma naye ngalendaba.
The prophet knew everything, for the divine beings had come to him to speak about this.
Ngicabanga ukuthi bekunyaka ka-2003 mhla eJudea sithola sesibizwa unhlangakazi ezositshela ukuthi uyasikhipha kwaShembe ubaba mkhulu wenza iphutha manje lento ezosihlupha.
I think that it was the year 2003 we were called or summoned to Judea, and Father Nhlangakazi then told us that he is taking us out or excluding us from the Shembe family, for the prophet was in a transgression when he did that.
Lento sengathi noma lokho kukhuluma kwakuvele nabantu ababonayo bakhuluma nabantu abantu bakithi baze ba convinced ukuthi kufanele ukuthi kwenziwe lokho.
It seems as if this came about from people who could see visions. They then took these visions and told them to my family.
Anginalo ulwazi ukuthi ubaba uthinga wayazi kangakanani ngalokho kodwa ubaba uNhlangakazi wayekwazi.
I do not have any knowledge as to how much Shembe the Fourth knew about this, but Father Nhlangakazi had knowledge of it.
Kodwa sangeniswa endlini eJudea. Judea ezibi kuthiwa kuphi ezibindlela egibisile sangeniswa endlini egibisile safica sekunembuzi ehlatshiwe ezosivalelisa sesiyayidla lembuzi.
We were then summoned to a house at Gibisile, and when upon our arrival, we found that there was a goat which was slaughtered, and they said that it was to bid us farewell, and then we actually partook in the consumption of that slaughtered animal.
Mhlangakazi wasithatha ngemoto yakwaShembe wasisa kwaMpanza.
Father Nhlangakazi then took us using a car that belonged to the Shembe people and sent us to the Mpanza family in a homestead that is at Mbala.
Wathi mayifika khona safica ubaba omncane naye ehlabe imbuzi yokusimukela.
And when we got there, we found that my younger brother's father had also slaughtered.
My uncle.
Okay. And when we got there, I found that my uncle had slaughtered a goat so that he would also receive us into the Mpanza family.
Samukelwa kanjalo ke kwaMpanza ngo-2003 semukelwa ubaba omncane sisuka kwaShembe.
And such was our reception into the Mpanza family in the year 2003 by my uncle.
Kwaku-May 2003.
It was the month of May in 2003.
NgoJuly 2003 kungena umhlangano ngathi ngibona ubaba uNhlangakazi esencothozela efike eguqa phambi kwethu.
In the month July 2003, I then saw Father Nhlangakazi walking slowly towards us, and then he knelt before us.
Wathi uyaxolisa kuyo yonke into owayenzayo ufisa ukuthi sithathe njengento engekho.
And he then begged a pardon for everything that had transpired, and he said that we should take everything that he did as none.
Wathi ufikile ubaba umprofeti kuye wacishe wambulala ebuza ukuthi uyayazi lento ayenzayo ufike enze into ebese iphikiswa nguye.
He said that the prophet came to him and almost killed him, and said that, and asked him as to does he know what it is that he's doing. The prophet does something, and then they go against what the prophet has said.
Kwaphela lapho ke ngoJuly ukuthi kubuye ukukhulunywe indaba yokuthi sikhishiwe kwaShembe sasiwa kwaMpanza.
And that was the end of the talk that we had been taken out from the Shembe family into the Mpanza family.
Angiqondile ukuthi ngikhulume izinto zonke ezenzekile kithi ngaphambi kokuba kube khona leli bandla.
My intention is not to speak about everything that transpired prior to the existence of this congregation.
Kodwa izinto ezenzekile ngaphambi kokuba kuleli bandla ezenzeke kithi izinto engazange zenzeka emhlabeni angazi noma waIsrael zake zenzeka.
But the things that transpired amongst us are things that have never happened on earth. I do not know if they took place during the era of the children of Israel.
Even indlela engahlangana nayo nomkhokheli into ongeke uze uyiqonde.
Even the way that I met the chief counselor is such that you can never understand it.
Umkhokheli wazalwa wahlala nentombazana egama layo uNobesuthu yamkhulisa waze wagana ehleli nayo.
The chief counselor, when she was born, she was raised by a girl who was named Nobesuthu, and she is the one who raised her. She's the one who reared her.
Le ntombazana iyona eyangichazela izinto eziningi ngomkhokheli yathi kufanele ukuthi ngishade naye.
And it is this girl who explained or told me many things about the counselor, and then she said that I should marry her.
Ngathi ngithi lento ngase ngiyikhulume kubantu bazothi ngiyahlanya. Kwaba iyona ekhuluma nomfundisi uButhelezi amchazela ngalesimo.
When I said to her that if I speak about such a thing, people will think of me as insane, she then took it upon her that she spoke to the priest Buthelezi and explained everything to him.
Yathi mayikhulumile noButhelezi, uButhelezi wavumelana nayo.
And when she had spoken to the priest Buthelezi agreed with her.
Ayigcina ngokukhuluma noButhelezi kodwa yakhuluma futhi nomnewethu umfundisi Mpanza.
Not only did she speak to the priest Buthelezi, but she also spoke to my brother, the Reverend Mpanza.
Umfundisi Mpanza wagcina evumelana nayo.
And the Reverend also agreed with her.
Ayigcina ngalapho yagcina iya ebuhleni iyohlangana nabafundisi bonke.
That was not the end of it, but she also went to Ebuhleni to hold a meeting with all the priests.
Yaba nomhlangano nabo bonke abafundisi kuhlanganisa umfundisi uButhelezi nomfundisi Mpanza bonke bavumelana nayo.
She held a meeting with the clergy, and that was inclusive of the Reverend Buthelezi and the Reverend Mpanza, and they were all in agreement with what she was saying.
Mina ngaziyela kubaba uThingo ngiyomchazela ngalesimo, wathi konke angikubhale phansi ngakubhala sengikubhalile, wagcina evumelana nami.
I was the one who personally went to Shembe the Fourth to explain everything that had transpired, and he said that I should transcribe it down, and after that he then also agreed with what I had narrated to him.
Wayesekhipha inkosi uDube ukuthi ayisingathe udaba lwethu.
He then deployed the King Dube to oversee everything.
Le nkosazana noma le ntombazana awayazi ukuthi umkhokheli udade wabo, kwathi mase kufike uhlaleleni ingilosi yayisithi singaphathe kabi ukuthi uNobesuthu uzoduka ngoba uboniswe izinto ezinkulu engaboniswa umuntu wasemhlabeni.
After this maiden or this girl had come, she then disappeared when the angel first appeared, and the angel explained to us that we should not feel bad or sad if we see her disappearing, for Nobesuthu had been shown great things that no man should see.
uNobesuthu yena wayengitshela yonke into ngohlaleleni, engitshela yonke into ngomkhokheli.
It is Nobesuthu that told me everything about the angel Hlaleleni and the chief counselor.
Kodwa uhlaleleni wathi singabuzi lutho ngokuduka kaNobesuthu, singabuzi ngisho umndeni wakhe singawubuzi lutho ngayo.
But Hlaleleni said that we should ask nothing about Nobesuthu, her family, and how she got lost.
Nempela sakwenza lokho, kodwa ngaxake ukuthi kuzokwenza kanjani ukuthi umuntu edukile umndeni wakhe ungabuzi lutho ngayo.
And indeed we carried ourselves in accordance to such instruction, but I was confused as to how would it come about that somebody could just disappear out of the blue and their family would not inquire about them.
Ngelinye ilanga kwakukhona la ekhaya ngabuza unina kamkhokheli ukuthi uNobesuthu ungwesingake einganeni zakhe.
And then one day I asked the maternal mother of the counselor as to which number is Nobesuthu in accordance to the children she gave birth to.
and impendulo kamama yathi angimazi nobeSuthu kodwa ngengizwe ngaye kodwa ngazi ngembona.
And her response was that I do not know who Nobesutu is, but I've heard of her, but I've never seen her.
Kwavele kwaduma amakhanda kithi sinomkhokheli ukuthi lokho kuchaza ukuthini.
We then went crazy, myself and the chief counselor, and we could not understand what was the meaning of this.
Inkinga yayikhona kumkhokheli ukuthi wathi lo nobeSuthu ubehamba naye ekhaya ehamba naye noma lapha ekhona kodwa manje yamangala mase esethi unina akamazi ngoba enobazi ukuthi udade wakho.
The problem that emerged was that the counselor said that she knew Nobesutu and she would journey with Nobesutu everywhere she went, and she would go with Nobesutu home. She understood her to be her sister, and she is confused that the mother would say that she has no knowledge of Nobesutu.
Ngakithi nami ngangimazi nobeSuthu nomfundisi emazi nobeSuthu bonke abantu bemazi nobeSuthu ebuhleni ngoba wafika khona wafika wakhuluma wahlala umhlangano sambona.
And on my side, or pertaining my side, I knew who Nobesutu was. The clergy also knew who Nobesutu was, for she was amongst us and we had seen her.
Kodwa kwacaca ukuthi sonke lesikhathi lo muntu esithi nobeSuthu ingilosi.
It was evident that this person whom we referred to as Nobesutu was an angel.
Kodwa lengilosi yahlala nomkhokheli esukela ekuzalweni kwakhe waze wakhula yaze yanyamalala mhla umkhokheli eseza kimi.
But this angel lived with the chief counselor right from the day she was born up until she grew, and this angel left when she came to me.
Anginakho ukuqonda noma unobeSuthu uyena uhlaleleni noma ungenye ingilosi anginakho ukuqonda ngoba indaba yasezulwini ngeke uziqonde.
I do not have any understanding whether Nobesutu is also Hlaleleni or she is another angel. I do not have understanding of that.
Kodwa uhlaleleni wathi lapho okhona unobeSuthu uzosibheka.
But the angel Hlaleleni said that where Nobesutu is, she still is looking over us.
Manje njengoba unobeSuthu washintsha ngohlaleleni angazi noma kuse umuntu oyedwa noma abantu ababili nokuthi unobeSuthu ngenkathi enyamalala kithi washonaphi noma sahleli naye angazi.
Now that Nobesutu had interchanged times with the angel Hlaleleni, I do not have any understanding whether it is still Nobesutu or she is in another place but still looking over us. I do not know.
Ngikho-ke ngithi sinenselelo yokuqonda indaba kaNkulunkulu. Indaba kaNkulunkulu singayithathi for granted ngoba into ejule kakhulu.
That is why I said that we have a duty to understand about the faith system of Yahweh. For when it comes to the faith system of Yahweh, it is something so deep that we should not take for granted.
Izinto ezenzeke kithi zingaphezulu kokuqonda kwethu.
The things that have happened to us are above our understanding.
Kwafika ingilosi yathi ngithunywa uShembe ukuthi ngakhelele ibandla likaJehova.
The angel came or arrived and said that she was sent by Shembe so that she instructs me to create or revive this congregation of Yahweh.
Ngayibuza ingilosi ukuthi ngimtsheleni ubaba uthingo ngalento ingilosi eyikhulumayo.
I asked the angel whether I should tell Shembe the fourth about what the angel was speaking about.
Impendulo yengilosi yathi akuhlangene nawe lokho uyotshela ubaba ilanga.
And the response of the angel was, you have nothing to do with that. It is Shembe the second who will tell him.
Kodwa eguleni kaBaba uthi ngokwacaca ukuthi uBaba ilanga wafika kuye.
And when or during the time that Shembe the fourth was unwell, it became evident that Shembe the second had came to him.
Ngoba kwafika kimi ukuthi uBaba uThingo wabiza amakhosikazi kaBaba ilanga wabatshela ngokuthi mina njengoba ngiphumile njena ngithunywe uBaba ilanga.
For it came to me that Shembe the fourth had summoned the wives of Shembe the second and explained to them that I have been sent by Shembe the second.
Ngangokuthi uBaba uThingo wazwahamba emhlabeni engazange waze wangisola ngokuphuma kwami ebuhleni.
Such that Shembe the fourth departed this earth without ever going against what I had been instructed.
Kodwa kwathi amaNazaretha abantu abangazilutho bangithuka bengithukela ukuphuma ebuhleni namanje basangithuka.
But the Nazarites who knew nothing went on to insult me, and they are still doing it till this very day.
Noma ngabachazela kanjani ukuthi angisiphumelanga ebuhleni ngakhishwa uShembe abanendaba lokho nalokho bavele bengithuke.
Try as I might to explain it to them, they do not care. They just go on to insult me.
Kusukela ngaqala leli bandla into ebengiyidla kubaNazaretha inhlamba.
Since I started leading this church, the only food that I consumed from the Nazarites were insults.
Noma ngabe ngibatshela ukuthi cha angikwazi ukubuyela ebuhleni ngoba angisiphumelanga ebuhleni ngakhushwa uShembe yena lo abamlandelayo abanendaba nalokho.
And even though I explained to them that no, I cannot go back to ebuhleni, for it is Shembe who instructed me to leave, the very same Shembe whom they claim to follow.
Kodwa uNkulunkulu mdala.
But God has lived for, God is old.
Uma ngabe into seyinqumile uyinqumile.
And when he has decided, he has taken that decision.
Mhla ka-26 kuMarch kwaba usuku ingilosi yafika la ekhaya yazongcoba ukuba ngibe umholi waleli bandla.
On the 26th of March, that is the day that the angel came to anoint me. She came right at this place to anoint me so that I may be the leader of this congregation.
Sase sinqumile ukuthi ngesonto elilandela mhla ka-3 April ngizokwemukelwa yileli bandla.
We had decided that in the following week, on the 3rd of April, I would be received by this congregation.
Kodwa yafika ingilosi yathi akuzokwenzeka lokho ngoba kuleli sonto elizalo mhla ka-3 April ezulwini kuyobe kunomcimbi omubi. Yakubeka kanjalo yathi mhla ka-3 kobe kunomcimbi omubi.
But the angel came and she denied that the church should receive us on the Sunday that was to follow or on the week that was to follow, and she said that during that time there will be a bad ceremony in heaven.
Yathi umcimbi wokwemukela kwami awenzwe ngomhla ka-27 kuyisonto.
And she said that the day to receive me or my inauguration into the leadership position should be on that Sunday.
Sawenza lo mcimbi.
And we carried out that inauguration.
Mhla ka-28 kwafika indaba zokuthi uBaba uThingo akasekho emhlabeni.
And on the 28th we received news that Shembe the fourth was no more alive. Was no longer alive.
Yafika ekuseni ingilosi emva kwalokho yathi seniyaqonda ke manje ukuthi bengichaza ukuthini uma ngithi ngesonto ezizayo kuyobe kunomcimbi omubi ezulwini.
And the angel then came during the morning, and then she asked, "Do you now have an understanding of what I said to you, or what I was saying to you when I said that there would be a bed ceremony in heaven?"
Yayisiguqa phansi ithi ngiyabonga Nkosi ukuthi wonke umsebenzi ongithume wona nguwenzile. Abasemhlabeni sebokwenza okwasemhlabeni.
She then knelt down and prayed, and prayed and said that, "Thank you, God, I have fulfilled the work which you sent me to do. Those who are from earth may now proceed with doing things that are earthly."
Ingilosi yafika yangigcoba mhla ka-26 ngemukelwa ibandla mhla ka-27.
The angel anointed me on the 26th, and then I was received by the congregation on the 27th.
Mhla ka-28 kwaqhamuka indaba zokuthi ubaba uthi ngakasekho emhlabeni.
And on the 28th, Shembe the fourth passed away.
Ingilosi yayikade ishilo ngenkathi ngiphuma ebuhleni ukuthi angeke ngigcotshwe ukuba ngibe umholi waleli bandla kusekhona ubaba uthi ngoba ngaphansi kwakhe.
The angel had said to me when I was leaving Ebuhleni that I will not be anointed into the leadership position, for I am still under Shembe the fourth.
Kodwa kwasimangalisa mayisifika mhla ka-26 isizongcoba ngoba thina sasazi ukuthi ubaba uthi ngusekhona emhlabeni.
But we were surprised when she then came on the 26th to anoint me, for we knew that Shembe the fourth was still alive.
Futhi ingilosi yayingitshelile ukuthi emva kwababa uThixo akakho umholi wakwaShembe engiyomguqela.
And the angel had told me that after Shembe the fourth, there is no other leader from the Shembe family who I may need before.
Yathi uma uke wenza njalo uyobuwenza isono ngoba ngaphambi kwakho kuhamba ubaba ilanga.
And she said that if you were to do that, you would be transgressing, for before you walks Shembe the second.
Kodwa noma ungabachazela ngokuthini abantu abangamaNazaretha uma leyo nto leyo bengavumelani nabo abavumelani nayo noma ngabe uNkulunkulu evumelana nayo.
But try as you might to explain these things to the Nazarites, if they are against it, they are hard or stiff-necked. They are stiff-necked and they will not agree with it, despite God agreeing with it.
Ngiyazi mina ukuthi emhlabeni bangabaholi bamaNazaretha kodwa ezulwini imina umholi wamaNazaretha.
I know that here on earth they are regarded as the leaders of the Nazarites, but in heaven I am the one who is regarded as the leader of the Nazarites.
Ngoba bona ubuholi bakunikezwa abantu kodwa mina ubuholi ngakunikezwa ezulwini.
For their priesthood was handed to them by people, but my priesthood is divine. It was handed to me by the heavenly beings.
Lokho angikuphuphi ngakutshelwa ngihlala nomuntu wasezulwini into engakaze yenzeke emhlabeni.
And that is not a dream to me. I live with a divine being, something that has never happened on earth.
Ngiyayazi yonke into yasezulwini ngilapha emhlabeni.
I know everything that is heavenly whilst I'm still here on earth.
Ukuthi umuntu wasemhlabeni ungithukuthini uthini njengoba sebeqala ukungithuka nasemaphepheni anginendaba ngoba ngiyazi ukuthi ngithunyweni.
No matter the insults that may be hurled at me by people here on earth, I do not care, despite them going to newspapers to insult me more. I do not care.
Ngenkathi ngiqala leli bandla ngaba inhlekisa abaningi baze bathi leli bandla ngeke liqede inyanga ezintathu likhona
When I started this church, I was a laughing stock, and some even went on to say that this church will not exist further than 3 months.
Abanye bathi hayi ngiqala leli bandla ngoba ngifuna imali.
And some said that I am only starting this church because it is a money laundering scheme.
Kodwa ngenkathi ngiqala leli bandla ngangimantshi ngihola imali enkulu kabi kunemali engiyithola la ebandleni.
But when I started this church, I was a magistrate and I was getting paid fairly well, far more than what I'm getting here or within this congregation.
Kodwa ngakwenza lokho ngoba ngithunywa ezulwini ngingenayo indlela yokuphika lokho engikutshelwe ezulwini.
But I did that for I was being sent by heaven and I had no other way to deny what I was being instructed to do.
Boninge ubunzima esibhekane nabo masiqala leli bandla sinomkhokheli.
There are many predicaments that we came across with the chief counselor when we started this congregation or church.
Kwaba khona abantu abangamaNazaretha ababa nathi kodwa basijikela endleleni.
There were people who were Nazarites and they were with us, but they turned against us.
Basithuka baze bakha ngisho ama-post okuthuka thina nje.
And they swore at us to the extent that they would create social media posts that were intended to swear at us.
Leli bandla lancipha sabona impela ukuthi hayi liyaphela.
The numbers of the people within the congregation declined such that we saw that it was coming to an end.
Kodwa ingilosi ehlala nawo yayilokishilo ukuthi angeke liphele ngoba ibandla likaNkulunkulu.
But the angel that we live with constantly told us that this church will not cease to exist, for it is the congregation of Yahweh.
Kukhona umfana esasisonda naye lapho agcina engumshumayeli. Uthi lo mfana ngithe ngilele ngaphupha.
There is a boy who we gathered within this congregation who ended up being a preacher, and he said to us that whilst he was asleep he saw a vision, or he had a dream.
Uthi ke lo mfana ngithe ephusheni ngabona sisethempelini simbalwa.
And he said that in this dream he saw us gathered in a temple and we were numbered to a few people.
Uthi washumayela wena uthema ushumayela kwaphenduka abantu amaKristu angena engasangeni ngomnyango kodwa esenqamula ilokhoza amatshe egcwala ethempelini.
And he said that as you were preaching, I then saw Christians coming into the church, but they were no longer entering through the doors, but they were going over the stones that are the boundary of the church.
Yathi namanye amaNazaretha nawo kwaba kanjalo angena lapha engasangeni ngomnyango enqamula amatshe amhlophe.
And he said that it was so for the other Nazarites. They came in their numbers here and they did not enter through the door, but they were crossing over the stones which set the boundaries of the temples.
Ithi kodwa kulabo amaNazaretha kwakukhona amaNazaretha akuzonda kakhulu. Athi mayibona lento yenzeka athukuthela kakhulu edlula ngaphandle athukuthela.
And he said that amongst those Nazarites there were some who became furious that this was actually taking place, that it was transpiring. They were so furious that they bypassed us on the way.
Lo mfana lo naye wagcina ngokuhlubuka kodwa lento owayibona isiyenzeka manje.
This young lad or boy also practiced apostasy, or he left the church, but what he envisioned is actually transpiring now.
Noma sekwenzekani kuleli bandla ayikho enye into esayenza ngaphandle kokuthi sishumayele indaba kaNkulunkulu le esasithunyelwe ukuthi sishumayele yona.
And despite anything that was taking place within the congregation, we did nothing else apart from preaching the word of God, that which we were sent to do or preach.
Asazi ukuthi kwenzeke kanjani ukuthi sibone abantu bonke yonke indawo begijima beza kuleli bandla.
We do not know how it happened that people from many different places would run or ran to this church.
Kodwa kufanele kwenzeke ngoba lento ngekaNkulunkulu.
But that should happen, for this, what we are gathered about is of God.
Noma ungalwa nayo noma ungayithuka kodwa angeke uyivimbele.
Whether you fight against it or insult it, you cannot stop it.
Washo njalo ubaba mkhulu wathi ngiwulayithile lo mlilo sengiyoke ngibone ukuthi uyocishwa ubani.
And those are the words of the prophet. He said that I have sparked this fire and I await to see who will extinguish it.
Bathena becabanga ukuthi sebeyicishile indaba kaShembe nansi isiyaqhamuka manje.
And when they thought that they had extinguished the gospel of the prophet, it is now appearing once more.
Kodwa ukuvuthwa kwalento sekudala izitha ezinkulu uManazaretha ngangokuthi njengamanje na sebesithuka ngisho emaphepheni singenze lutho.
But the growth of this congregation has created many enemies, such that they are insulting us or swearing us all over the newspapers, despite us having done nothing.
Kuyinto engakholeki ukuthi kunaManazaretha manje asehlangana namaKristu ukuhlasela thina.
It is something that one cannot believe, that they are now Nazarites who are forming unions with or coming into unification with Christians so that they may insult us.
IlaManazaretha lana lo mfana owawabona kwi-vision yakhe ukuthi kwaba naManazaretha aphatheka kabi kakhulu uma ebona ukukhula kwaleli bandla.
And those are the Nazarites that this young boy or this boy saw in his vision when he said that they were Nazarites who became extremely furious upon seeing the growth of this congregation.
Banenhlanhla abantu abakwazi ukubona ukuthi leli bandla livela ezulwini.
Fortunate are those who are able to see that this congregation is one that comes from heaven.
Noma ngabe basuka kubaKristu noma ngama basuka kuManazaretha, kodwa banenhlanhla abantu abakwazi ukubona ukuthi leli bandla livela ezulwini.
Be it that they are coming from Christians or Nazarites, but they are fortunate that they see that this congregation is divine.
Kunezinto ezenzeka kuleli bandla ezingenzeki noma kuliphi ibandla emhlabeni wonke.
There are things that happen within this congregation that take place in no other congregation in the whole world.
Akaze kwenzeke emhlabeni ukuthi ingilosi izohlala nabantu ihlala impela nje nabo uze ugcine ukhohlwe ukuthi ingilosi.
It has never happened here on earth that an angel lives amongst a people such that you even start to forget or lose memory that this is an angel.
Kodwa lokhu kuyenzeka kithi ukuthi njengoba sihleli nengilosi nje isiwudade wethu.
But we see it happening amongst us, that as we live with the angel, she has now become like our sister.
Sigcina sesize sakhohlwa nokuthi konke ingilosi size sibone ngoba isinyamalala ukuthi awu konke ingilosi lena.
We even end up forgetting that this is an angel, and only come to the realization when she disappears.
Kuyisimanga ukuthi njengoba silapha emhlabeni nje sazi yonke into yasezulwini ngoba sihleli nomuntu wasezulwini.
It is miraculous that though we are here on earth, we have an understanding of things that are happening in heaven, and that is because we live with a divine being.
Alikho ibandla elazi indaba kaNkuluNkulu njengaleli bandla.
And there is no other congregation that knows the gospel of God better than this congregation.
AmaNazaretha akazi lutho ngendaba kaNkuluNkulu.
The Nazarites know nothing about God,
Angaphathi kaMaKristu.
and not to mention the Christians.
Okuhlekisayo njengamanje ukuthi leli bandla seli-threat kuwo wonke amakholwa.
What is funny is that this congregation is now a threat to all the other churches.
Lilincane njengoba lilincane nje maliqhathaniswa namabandla amakhulu.
Small as it is in numbers if compared to other churches which are great.
Into eyenza ukuthi libelesabe akikho ukukhula kwalo, kodwa amaqiniso ngoNkulunkulu ababona ukuthi abantu bazogcina bewazi.
What invites them to fear is the truth or the truths that we are speaking about God, that they see that people will end up knowing.
Ngoba leli bandla lazi izinto eziningi ngenkolo kaJehova nangomlando wenkolo amabandla onke angayazi.
For this congregation is a custodian of a history about Yahweh, a history about the people of Yahweh that other congregations do not know.
Amabandla onke mangithi amabandla ngisho namaKristu namaNazaretha.
And when I say all churches, I am inclusively speaking about Christians and other Nazarites.
Agazi ukuthi akakaze ebe khona umuntu oJesu emhlabeni.
They are ignorant of the fact that a person who is named Jesus has never existed here on earth.
Umuntu owaba khona emhlabeni oMessiah kwaba uYeshua, hayi uJesu.
The person who came into being and was the Messiah is Yeshua, not Jesus.
Amabandla agazi ukuthi uJesu akakaze ezalwe ngomoya.
The other churches also do not know that Jesus or Yeshua was not born through immaculate conception.
Yize lokho kubhaliwe even kwiTestament labo, kodwa abakwazi ngoba abalandeli imibhalo kodwa abalandela idoctrine yebandla.
Despite that being written in their testament, they are not aware of it, for they do not follow their writings or scriptures, but they follow the doctrines or the dogma of other people.
Amabandla agazi ukuthi amaRoma abulala amaJuda aze aqeda inkolo kaJehova. Abakwazi lokho, abakuboni.
These other churches are not aware, or they do not know that it is the Romans that murdered the Jewish people and did away with the faith system of Yahweh. They are ignorant of that.
Amabandla agazi ukuthi thina singamaHebheru.
These congregations do not have an understanding that we are Hebrews.
Abantu abaningi abangayazi lento uma beyithola bayajabula befuna ukuyazi.
Many people do not know this. When they come to the knowledge of these things, they become joyful and seek more knowledge.
Kodwa abanye kakhulukazi laba abaphethe amabandla bayathukuthela ngoba amabandla abo akhelwe endaweni yokungalazi iqiniso.
Others that come to this knowledge become happy. Many who are the leaders of these other congregations become angry and furious, for their congregations or churches are built upon ignorance, the ignorance of their congregants.
Omunye umuntu uyaye ephikise into ngoba engayifuni, hayi ngoba ingayili iqiniso.
Some other people dispute something based on their hatred. It is emotive, not because it is truthful.
AmaNazaretha amaningi asizondela ukuthi sibonisa ukuthi sinoNkulunkulu kodwa kungafanele ukuthi sibe noNkulunkulu ngoba bona sebenqumile ukuthi ofanele ukubona uNkulunkulu yimuphi.
Many Nazarites hate us or despise us, for we have shown the world that God is with us. They despise us for they had already decided that it is them who is supposedly or who are supposedly to have God.
Omunye usihlasela ephepheni uthi asiwona amaNazaretha. Angazi noma uyazi ukuthi amaNazaretha into enjani.
One of them also went to attack us using of our newspapers by saying that or claiming that we are not Nazarites. I do not know if this person has any understanding as to what is a Nazarite.
Kodwa kuyabonakala ukuthi le nkulumo yakhelwe phezulu kwenzondo yokuthi efisa ukuthi le nzondo ingangena kubo bonke abantu ukuthi sibe abantu ababi.
But it is evident that this type of talk is built upon hatred, and this person wishes to instill this hatred to other people so that other people may see us as evil people.
Kodwa iqiniso elisobala ukuthi sithunywe ezulwini ukuthi sivuse uNazaretha.
But the clear truth is that we have been sent by heaven so that we teach about the Nazarite faith.
AmaNazaretha ayikho into angayenza.
And there is nothing that the Nazarites can do.
AmaKristu ayikho into abangayenza.
There is nothing that the Christians can do.
Ngisho inkolo yomdabu ayikho into engayenza.
Even the traditional religion can do nothing about it.
Ayikho into engenziwa amaJuda.
And there is nothing that the Jews can do about it.
Ngoba into esikhulumayo siyayazi ivele siyitshelwe ezulwini ukuthi lento ihamba kanje kanje kanje.
For what we speak about is something that we have knowledge of, and we have been told or instructed in heaven as to how everything should proceed.
Leli bandla lisaqala kodwa leli bandla lizoba likhulu libe into esimangalisa emhlabeni.
This church is fairly new, but it will become something great and miraculous upon the earth.
Washo njalo babila.
And that is what Shem II said.
Wathi ayikho into enhle ezofana nobuNazaretha emhlabeni.
He said that there is nothing that will be more beautiful than the Nazarite faith here on earth.
And abantu abazokwenza ubuNazaretha bube into enhle ithina. Koqala ngathi ukuthi ubuNazaretha kube into enhle emhlabeni.
And the people who will beautify this faith system, the Nazarite faith system, is us. We are the pioneers of such a beautification here on earth.
UYeshua wathi umbuso kaNkulunkulu awubese emhlabeni. Intando kaNkulunkulu yenziwe emhlabeni njengoba yenziwa ezulwini.
Yeshua said that the kingdom of God should come unto earth and his will be done here on earth as it is in heaven.
Njengoba hleli nengilosi njena sihleli nombuso kaNkulunkulu.
As we are living with an angel, we are living with the kingdom of God.
Uma thina sise esontweni zonke ingilosi zizohlala nathi lapha esontweni ngoba umbuso kaNkulunkulu ula kithi.
And when we are gathered here as a congregation for a sermon, all the angels come together with us, for the kingdom of God is here within us.
Umthetho kaNkulunkulu ugcinwa kuleli bandla.
The law of God is kept within this congregation.
Alikho ibandla lamaNazaretha noma lamaKristu noma angazi kuma Muslims eligcina umthetho kaNkulunkulu njengaleli bandla.
There is no other congregation that abides by the law of God, whether that be the Christians or the Nazarites. I have no knowledge of the Muslims that observes the laws of God as we do.
Ngoba kuleli bandla asingabazi asihambe sifunisela ukuthi umthetho kaNkuluNkulu umi kanjani ngoba sihleli nomuntu ovela ezulwini.
For within this congregation, we do not have any doubts, and we do not go about looking for anything, for we know that the law of God comes from heaven.
Angahlangana amaNazaretha onke, kuhlangane namaKristu, kuhlangane nenkolo yomdabu, kodwa ngeke beyenze lutho lento ehliswe uNkulunkulu kithi.
The Nazarites, Christians, and the traditional religion may gather in their numbers, but they will do nothing to this faith system, for it has been brought down by Yahweh to us.
Umbuso kaNkulunkulu uphezu kwethu.
And the kingdom of God is upon us.
Labo asebekwazile ukungena lapha beyibambisise lento ngoba uma ukholwe kuleli bandla uyosuka lapha ngesikhathi sokugcina uye ezulwini ufice konke ubukwenza lapha kwenziwe ezulwini.
And those who have converted and joined us should hold steadfastly to this congregation, for upon the day of departure you are going to go straight to heaven, and you'll find that the life which you are living here is also in heaven.
Ibingeke ingilosi ihlale phakathi kwethu uma singayiphili impilo yasezulwini.
The angel would not live amongst us if we did not live in accordance to the life of heaven.
Bayasithuka amaKristu, asithuka amaNazaretha, kodwa abantu abaningi sebebonile ukuthi uNkulunkulu ula.
The Nazarites and the Christians are hurling insults at us, but many people have seen that God is with us.
Ingakho nje abantu abaningi begijima beza lapha ngoba sebebonile ukuthi lapha kunoNkulunkulu.
That is why many people are running into this place, for they have seen that there is God here.
And akakho ongawavimbela lamanzi obungcwele asesemhlabeni.
And there is nobody who can stop this holy flood that has reached the earth.
Kosi, 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 Ngifisa ukuba ngicacise lokho. Leli bandla linabantu abanibili abasebenza imisebenzi ehlukene. Njengoba ngiphambi kwenu nje ngibekelwe ukuthi ngishumayele ngichazele umhlaba ngoJehova. Kodwa umkhokheli kunakho konke ubekelwe ukuthi elethe ukuphila kubantu. Ngaso sonke isikhathi ingilosi iyayifike kuye imtshele ukuthi kufanele ukuthi abantu lapha bephile kanjani. Ngakho ke kunganididi lokho. Noma mina ungeza kimi ngikubusise uphile. Kodwa umuntu obekelwe ukuphilisa abantu umkhokheli. Umuntu obekelwe ukuthi echaze indaba kaNkulunkulu imina. Sinenhlanhla ke kulokho. Ngoba yafika ingilosi yasitshela ukuthi asicele kuNkulunkulu ukuthi i-coronavirus ingasithinti thina. Bengizwa emsakazweni noma kwi-TV izolo kukhuluma ungqongqoshe ukuthi izolo bekuphela unyaka lokhu kusukela ekuqaleni kokufa noma komuntu owabanjwa i-coronavirus. Kodwa njengoba kuphela unyaka nje akhono yedwa umuntu olikuleli bandla oseke wabulalwa i-coronavirus. Amen. Futhi nginethemba lokuthi akazi kuba bikho futhi umuntu ozobulawa i-coronavirus. Amen. Ngani na ngoba sihamba noNkulunkulu ophilayo, sihamba noJehova. Amen. Asibheke inkosi. Amen. uNkulunkulu wokhokho bethu, uNkulunkulu kaShembe, siphambi kwakho Nkosi ngaleli sabatha lakho elingcwele. Siyabonga Nkosi kuba usimemile, kuba size kuwe sizokudumisa. Sicela Nkosi kuba ukudumisa kwethu kwamukeleke ezulwini. Usenze Nkosi kuba sibe abantu abenyanya isono. Usenze Nkosi ube sibe abantu abathanda ukukhonza wena kuphela. Usenze Nkosi kuba singabanazo izinkanuko zasemhlabeni. Kodwa ngaso sonke isikhathi sifune ubungcwele bakho. Ngoba ubungcwele bakho obuyosingenisa ezulwini. Siyacela konke lokho Nkosi ngelakho igama manje uzephathe. Amen. Amen.